You went to the Missouri Senate and you passed out of the Missouri General Assembly a police reform bill. Tell folks how you did it.
Well, first, Scott, thank you for having me on. And again, I always make it very clear, George Floyd could have easily been me. And that was my primary focus on why I decided to pursue police reform, and arguably probably one of the most difficult pieces of legislation to get through a supermajority legislature. We're proud of the legislation, and we're just glad we got it done. And we had a team of folks that were very helpful in the process.
And I think it's important when you talk about what you did here. You had to go all over this state. You got the sheriffs on board. You got police chiefs on board. You got folks on board saying that, there are some things that we could do better to train our folks. And that was no small accomplishment.
No, we went all throughout the entire state. Springfield, clearly Jefferson City. We went to various parts of St. Louis, Columbia, and we talked to not only law enforcement but activists, advocates, and we wanted to know, what did they think about how do we move forward. And creating that stakeholder group, we were able to come up with some very strong policies, arguably one of the strongest now criminal justice reform packages in the history of the state.
It's an interesting thing. It seems like we live in an age where say the craziest thing you can, then say something crazier and you get more Twitter likes or Facebook retweets or whatever. But when you can take an activist and convince them that you're serious and have them sit in on a table with a sheriff, that's a special accomplishment that you got to feel very good about leaving session.
Well, and Scott, we have to get back to what's the point of all of this. I remember being that 18-year-old kid in Ferguson, driving around clearly while black, having my constitutional rights violated and handcuffed on the sidewalk. So, understanding that there is a subculture of bad police officers out there, I experienced that firsthand, and that's what contributes to activism. That's what contributes to advocacy, but also thoughtful police officers that understand that they do need to do better in their profession.
It's an interesting thing. I was raised in the boot heel, a very fortunate family. It was an interesting thing to look back, and when you're in St. Louis, you get to see thousands of Missouri citizens out protesting something. And everybody says, well, maybe they don't protest in my district or whatever, but those are Mike Parson's constituents. Those are Dave Schatz's and Rob Vescovo's constituents as well. And when they're out in the streets, this is the first time, whether you agree or whether you're a radical, whether you're a moderate, whether you see a problem, whether you don't, that many Missourians out protesting something. This is the first thing in the really 8 years since activism has been kind of at the forefront of St. Louis. This is the first time people are going to say, nah, maybe I don't agree with you. Maybe I don't agree with everything you say, but I hear you. And I think that's such an important thing for people to at least say that somebody hears them and is willing to do the work you've done to show that we hear where you're coming from.
Well, first, it requires a all hands on deck approach, and that's something that we were proud of. First, I want to just make it clear, I'm very proud of my caucus, who was very supportive in getting us across the finish line. We had bipartisan support. My colleague, Senator Luetkemeyer, stepped up and was a great partner through this process. Representative Racine Aldrich, who was in the House as a Democrat, and then Representative Shamed Dogan, a Republican, all came together and recognized that we needed to do something to ensure that there's police accountability in Missouri. So, this is an unprecedented coalition that we've created, and I'm just so grateful for the House and Senate stepping up and getting us across the finish line.
There's a buzz around right now, the St. Louis business community, about maybe concerned about the direction of the state. And obviously, if you're in St. Louis, police reform and issues like this are a business issue also. A CEO has to look at, when you're looking at a Republican that hears you and actually cares about not Twitter likes or the crazies, but cares about practical things to recruit young programmers like they need at Bayer and like they need at Enterprise. Tony Luetkemeyer is a name that deserves a lot of credit here, I think.
Well, yes, and I spoke with the business community about this. Think about it, what this bill does. Not only does it ban chokeholds and ensure that bad police officers aren't bouncing around, but we've added language to address expungement. Now, folks who may have made a mistake in their life, they can have their records expunged in 3 years after being removed from probation for a felony, and 1 year for a misdemeanor. Those are things that's going to get folks not only quality jobs, but get their records expunged to where they don't have a mistake following them for the rest of their lives.
You're going to give folks a fair chance to be the citizens that everybody else expects them to be, with both hands tied behind their back. It is a tremendous thing, and it's going to be enjoyable to watch all the Missourians that get that second chance to move forward because of this law.